You play a football match without fans, you've got nothing. It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch, it becomes nothing.
And to Johnston. Johnson. And a goal by Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura! He has done it! Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won.
A star is born at Celtic!
Champions. That's who we are.
Good evening, folks. Hope you're all doing well. It's Tuesday, Tic Talk time. We'll get Paddy, we'll get James. Me and James will be on the same top. It's a nice top. Probably the best out of the three Adidas so far. I just saw the latest news from Celtic website, and do you remember that top that was leaked by Adidas, and they actually ended up selling it without consent from Celtic before it was actually officially announced? Well, yeah, Celtic have now announced it that it's going to be our third top, but I think this is perhaps the most appealing one. Anyway, boys, how you doing, Paddy, James?
Yeah, fine. Do you know what? I'm actually just sitting here wondering, right, between the 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, whoever's on, who's going to be the first one to bear the new home tip? I reckon it's going to be the wee fella.
Yeah, no plans to get it anytime soon. I think that will be one that will be, if anything, a birthday present or something like that. No plans anytime soon.
To the viewers, hope you're all doing well. Get your comments coming in. Let us know how your summer's gone.
Mate, we've literally just said that before we went on. We need to get a desk, cunt.
I know, man. I know.
Just been very, 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 very busy in McGinty's in Hungary. So, honestly, we've been chock-a-block.
Aye. It's quite ironic. McGinty's been in the Shetlands for ages and ages and ages, and all of a sudden there is like a proper heat wave in Europe. Like it's one of the ones where you just don't go out, and McGinty has the wisdom to visit Hungary. I hope he's doing okay. So I guess it's another week in the summer where there's no football. In fact, the news for Celtic has been very, very quiet. Indeed, there's been more noise coming for the BBC than us, which is saying something. In fact, we actually left on a cliffhanger last week. You know, it was the day before Hugh Edwards got announced as the guy. But of course, there's been no announcement for Celtic since then. But anyway, we're going to talk about everything and anything related to Celtic. So any rumoured incomings, any personnel problems that they're foreseeing on the horizon. Yes,
just before we do, mate, I see the Corvo back in. Great to have you here on a weekly basis, mate. And a very, very, very what was I going to say there? I hope you beat the cunts tonight, mate. Sure he is well.
Who are they playing?
Newcastle are playing the Rotten Mob at Ibrox tonight.
Oh, right. So I never even knew that. It rings a bell now. Paddy, we've got another wee idea. Do you want to tell the viewers what the theme is for tonight?
Well, obviously we'll talk about Celtic and whatnot, but we're going to get a wee bit of fun again. So we'll bring this up later in the show, and it will be sort of an 11 aside of players who were either overhyped or came into great hype but didn't quite up to the mark, or who basically came in you were excited to see them coming in and they were basically shit. So once that comes up, we'll start asking everybody in the comment section to give your team, your players and whatnot. We'll get them up. So have a wee think now while we're sitting talking. So it's going to be players like, I don't know, like a Janino or something who came into great fanfare, great reputation, this and that, and never really done much. It'll tie in with the conversation. It's not just a random thing that we'll fucking pull out there because there's nothing to talk about. It's pre-season.
Of course not. Of course not, mate. We get resourceful during these arid times. So, from an Arsenal fan perspective, Ian, right? What was it? I don't know. I don't know what the question was. So the boys are back.
It was a question that you asked me, Gavin.
What was the question I asked you?
What's the theme?
All right, okay. that was a while back now, Patrick. Now, the last time we were in Japan, I'm just looking at a picture here of the team that we had. So we actually played Yokohama Marinos. This was back in 2005 or 2006. So Gordon Strachan team. I'm looking at the team photograph before they lined up. So you've got Nakamura, who's wearing the armband. Next to him, you've got Mo Kamara, that fullback. You've got Derek Reardon, Adam Virgo, a very, very young-looking, fresh-faced David Marshall. You've got Big Varga. You've got Aidan McGeady, Evander Snow, Neil Lennon. It's odd to see Neil Lennon kind of like looking trim back then. Alan Thompson, probably the very, very last days of Alan Thompson's time at Celtic. And the other guy in the photo, I don't know who he is. A wee young chap.
Show us.
I'm tempted to say Paul Lawson, but I think that's after Paul Lawson.
Shut up. Let's see it. That's it. Hide the other stuff. Need a telescope for that.
Is it difficult to see?
Very.
It's just too far zoomed out. Aye.
Zoom into the player.
No, you can't.
All right, we'll move on then.
Indeed.
Corvo, you need to tell us who this guy is, mate. I've never heard him, and I've not even heard any rumours about this guy.
A man with a lot of vowels in his name anyway. Whenever I see that, I think of Marco Antoine Fortuny. Don't get seduced by the vowels. But anyway, so we're playing them more at Yokohama Marinos, Ange's old team, and it's Kevin Muscat who's in charge. Apparently, they're still playing in the Ange style. Now, they're kind of halfway through their season, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're on the back of a defeat tomorrow. So I think it might be, correct me if I'm wrong, it's either 11 o'clock UK time.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Celtic TV. And then we're playing Saturday, Gamba Osaka. I don't know how good they are in the league, where they are in the league anyway, but Ennie's going to try and watch it.
I will be working.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be going for an hour and a half shite break.
Brendan basically saying we're just buying projects for him to develop, no marquees. So in terms of the visit to Japan, Paddy, I know that you, maybe even more so, McGinty, like to talk about it, maximising our commerciality in the Southeast Asia region. So I guess to an extent we're cashing in. We envisaged we'd be going back there with Postecoglou, but he's not there. However, we still have the Japanese personnel. So the likes of Kobayashi, Kyogo, Iwata, Maeda, etc. Maybe a proud moment for them, who knows? What's your expectations for the two friendlies anyway, or do you really not read too much into these friendlies?
No, listen, of course you don't like to either pick up the news or watch the game and see us getting beat, but I don't think you can read too much into that. It's all about introducing Celtic to that market, that side of the world, even though we have done in the past with guys like Nakamura, players like that, and obviously the guys that we've already got, Kyogo, etc. But no, I think it's just about introducing Japan to Celtic again. And I saw something yesterday, and it's I think it's the main Adidas shop in Japan wherever we're playing. They've actually introduced Celtic tops kind of onto the rails for like the first time. Clearly, that's obviously because Celtic are in town, but it's nice to see that, you know, the brand's been out there, and it's exposure. It's exposure for Celtic. It's going to be great fanfare for the players coming back. You've said Nakamura. Nakamura's been pictured with the rest of the Japanese guys sitting with them at a kind of an unveiling type thing. So it's good to see the kind of blend with old and new. Awata's just signed permanently, and I think he came from Yokohama, did he not?
Awata.
I'm sure he's been signed for. I'm sure he's been signed for Yokohama. Again, the plan seemed to have been to go to Japan with Postecoglou at the helm. You know, have that kind of hero's return with the players, and then jet off to South Korea and kind of introduce Celtic to that side as well, other than kind of what the guys will see on TV in South Korea, following players like what do you call them, O, and the two new guys. But unfortunately, it's not the way it planned out, because obviously we're not going to South Korea anymore. But it is what it is. It should be a good experience for the players. But no, I wouldn't look too much into it if it's a negative result on paper.
James, for me, it's all about fitness. And saying that, I remember being on holiday as a youngster in a pub and watching Celtic play Tottenham. It was like a pre-season friendly, and there was like a couple of Tottenham fans there, and Celtic scored a goal, and me and my dad are going mental, you know, shouting for joy. And like the Tottenham fans are like, what are you getting excited about? It's just a friendly, but like we always want to win, you know. And at Celtic, every game you want to do well. Maybe even more so whenever you're kind of representing on holiday with your colours. But again, I guess it's just fitness. Any other kind of takeaways? Would you be looking into the way that Brendan sets out the team? Maybe that's another aspect that we could look into. How about the way that Brendan sets out the team, the formation? Is there anything at all to read into with that?
I think formation, the formation he sets up and the tactics he plays will probably be obviously how we're looking to start the season. As you say, I'm not going to take too much for any results or anything like that. To be honest, I'm just looking forward to having football back. I found myself last week trying to get Shamrock Rovers fucking whatever round of qualifiers for the Champions League or whatever it is this is. I watched that Spurs game earlier, and honestly, I'm just climbing the walls. I just want Celtic back.
How did Spurs look?
They get bet 3-2. They get bet 3-2, but they actually looked. I was going to say they looked really good. They didn't. They looked good. They should have won. They had hundreds of chances, just couldn't score, and then the defence was a shambles. But they did look all right. But no, I'm looking forward to maybe seeing guys like Haksabanovic getting a run at the Mora, to see if there's any kind of marked improvement in him. Obviously pretty much getting a pre-season under his belt. Is he going to be on the wing? Is he going to play through the middle? So that's what I like about pre-season. We can experiment, and obviously moving into the season when it actually matters, we'll have an idea about these guys and whether or not they'll still be here or elsewhere.
By the way, did you see? Have you seen a picture of Haksabanovic recently?
Blonde hair.
Aye.
No, I mean, he looks like a fucking tank. He's him and Matt O'Reilly. That's the two guys I've seen that really look as if they're beefed up. Starfield as well a wee bit, I know.
Does that mean that Haksabanovic is going to be even slower if he's looking like a tank? Yeah. By the way, a warm welcome back to Studs Lanigan. Now, I understand, Studs, that you're in Paddy's version of reality. You're still on probation right now, but you can say whatever you want tonight. Okay, you get carte blanche to view whatever opinion you've got, and you've got a get out of jail free card, shall we say? Paddy, do you have anything to say?
Fucking watch it, Studs, or you're getting back in the bin. I mean it this time. I'm looking at it.
Okay, so boys back in Japan. Another thing, okay, so it's the summer, there's no football, but of course we're kind of feeding on this diet of transfer rumours. James, if you were to sum up the transfer window so far for Celtic in one word?
So far, I would say underwhelming.
Padfoot?
Yeah.
You.
Oh, right.
Bumblebee.
No, probably unfulfilled.
Fulfilled. Yeah, that's... But who fulfills Paddy, you know?
There's only one person, and it's your studs. Listen, we've made some signings, right? I think we've made 5 signings now. Is that right? 4, 5.
Has it been made official yet? The 2 Korean boys.
Well, the clubs have basically put up, the guys have transferred. So obviously, Hyung Young Hwang, or sorry, I'm probably murdered his name there. He's the first guy that's in, so he's been signed for about £2 million. He's the winger who was so desperate to come to Celtic that he actually offered to pay the remainder of the transfer fee if it was not back. So if Celtic offered 1.5 million, his club wanted 2. He was offered to pay $500,000. He was so desperate to come to Celtic, which is a good sign, I suppose, if you're a Celtic fan, but not quite if you're a fan of Gwangyong, who's his club. You know what I mean? That the guy's willing to pay $500,000 to get out his club. But since it's a Celtic forum, we shall say I like the desire. And the other guy who has been signed, by the way, I thought this one was pretty much a surprise because I never heard any rumours about it. Never heard nothing. I just logged in one day to see that Hyung was signing. And then the next minute, this guy's name was mentioned right out the blue, and it was Kwon something. He is the 6 foot plus defensive midfielder. I think, for what I've read, is that he was very much courted by the top clubs in South Korea, mainly for his physicality and his technical ability on the ball. But he's another guy who was desperate to come to Europe, not so much Celtic, but certainly Europe. And he has come out and made a very bold statement, which I want to get your guys' opinions on. He basically says that he's coming here to be the best player in the team, and he will be the best player at Celtic, and then he'll go to England.
Paddy, can you do me a favour and take that fucking image away, man? That was doing my bits.
I'm there. Mate, he's an excellent guy. This guy is.
Obviously, the player backs himself, so he says that he's coming to be the best player at Celtic, and then he sees his future either in the Bundesliga or in the English league. Look, nothing wrong with confidence, you know what I mean? Maybe he's a bit mental thinking that. Quite frankly, that's my opinion. But we've all been crying out for this Wanyama type midfielder, and we're getting apparently a South Korean version of that. I've seen a couple of clips of him on YouTube. He likes a tackle, a bit of a bulldozer. I've seen him a couple of times do the Iniesta shuffle, where he knocks it from one foot to the other and plays it forward and gets past his man. So the guy's a bit mobile as well. He certainly looks more mobile than Abelgard, who was a shocking signing. Now, apparently this guy was identified when Postecoglou was still manager. So I guess we need to put a bit of trust in him. He does play in the 2nd division. James, have you seen anything about the guy, and what do you make of his comments?
Yeah, I've seen a wee bit of just usual kind of YouTube stuff. I've actually seen less of the winger, but for what I've seen him, he looks good. But it's easy enough to say watching YouTube. See, to be honest with you, see with comments like that, I just always think it, keep it to yourself, don't say it. Let us say it through time, because my mind always goes back to Bangura. Was it Mo Bangura at his first interview and says that he seen himself scoring all these goals and then moving to the Premier League in England and everything, and obviously couldn't hit a cool's arse with a banjo. But time will tell, obviously. In terms of watching him, his videos and stuff, he looks really good, but I just never buy into all the kind of wee snippets, interviews and stuff like that. Just keep that to yourself and let us decide through time.
Squid Game cast member. Fuck me on.
That was a good programme, by the way.
What was that? Red light, green light, wasn't it?
Yes. So those 2 players, like, it's basically almost to be announced, you know, for Frank Brennan, the voice of reason, and these signings are only going to be near complete flops, or there's another 650 grand Larson type signing amongst them, and the odds of another King of Kings coming our way are a big fat 0, sadly.
It's nice to see that. It's nice to see that before the season even kicks off, that Frank You're sticking to your guns. It's either fucking doomsday or domination. There's no in between. You can't be decent and you can't be good. You're either fucking shite or fucking brilliant. Love it.
So Studs, he's saying that we need 6 top quality players in and relieve some non-contributors of their contracts if possible. Now, I think there's a lot of non-contributors. There's almost too many to mention. Paddy, you went through a list on another group chat. It was about like 5 or 6 players, and I was thinking that's just the bare minimum. That's people who I already expect to leave. People like Ajeti, and McCarthy, man, what magic has he done to stay around the corridors of Parkhead? I don't know.
I don't know, but I think they'd probably just get rid of him for that accent. It's fucking horrendous. No, there's the rumours of names, right? I think Brendan Rodgers has basically alluded to the fact that we're a bit overloaded in terms of players. The 4 of the names that I've seen mentioned for the immediate job, your friend Uragidi, who you really, really rate, I know that. Uragidi, Ajeti, Sorrow, who we've tried to sell to Panathinaikos and they knocked it back. Was why. And James McCarthy. Now, those 4, you would definitely say, Tate bye. You're not going to get a chance here. I was a wee bit hopeful maybe McCarthy might have at least get tried out, but clearly the manager doesn't fancy him, or maybe thinks it's too far ahead for McCarthy to come back and kind of cement himself into a position where he's getting game time. Has he lost that edge? Has he lost that bit of well, he never had much speed, but you know what I mean? Is he up to speed in terms of the way this team play? And I know Rodgers isn't going to go for the total aggressive kind of gung-ho type thing that Ange had in place. There will be snippets of that and there will be a kind of basis. Doesn't want to transition it too much, but it's definitely going to be in terms of more technical side, more possession. And if we've signed a batter who is your... Give me 2 minutes, mate, I'll try it. But if we've signed a Water on a permanent deal who is a defensive-minded player, and we're signing the guy Kwon, who is a defensive midfielder by all reports, that's 2 that we've got for one position. And that one position isn't all going to get played all the time. So you can't really have guys like James McCarthy sitting about, even if they are a leader in the dressing room. It's time now to cut the strings. It's time now to get rid of the emotional attachments for players. He's only doing it. He's only going to do it. He's only going to get the chance. So go away, play the rest of your career, go and find a team that want you. Unfortunately, that's just the cut and dry of the business.
Fighting talk there for James. For Paddy. I don't know if you're ready to give up on McCarthy here. James, wanted to ask you this. I think we've got a winger conundrum. Now, before I kind of go into it, my point is that with the departure of Jota, we don't have anyone who operates on his level in terms of a creative force from either wing. Now, the other problem is we've got so many wingers, but I still think we need to bring in someone who's of the same level as Jota, basically, who can beat a man and who's got good delivery as well. Now, I've seen rumours of Tete. I don't know if Tete is the man, but he looks better than what we've got. So I'm keeping an open mind on that. Whether Tete is an affordable target, I do not know. But, James, the winger conundrum. We've got Mikey Johnson. We've got James Forrest. We've got Vata as well. Now, another point I'm going to say is that if Forrest is still kicking about, does that impede the development of Vata unless he's allowed to go out on loan? So Mikey Johnson, Forrest, Vata, Maida, Haksabanovic, Abada, Tilio, and now we're getting the boy Yang as well from Korea. That's 8. And that's not even counting, a Tete. 8, that's fucking ridiculous, man. You can only get 2 wingers on a park. Mate, what do you think? And what do you think about my point about the creative void of Jota leaving?
Aye.
Is someone good enough there to take his place?
I don't think there's anybody there that's on a par or even near on a par with him. For what I've seen of this guy, Tetty, I do like the look of him. I think if he came in, he would take Jota's place in the team. Mikey Johnson, I would have had gone years ago. I know obviously Rodgers has said he's injured again, so I think this will be the summer he's away. Forrest will probably, I actually thought he'd be away this season, but listening to the interviews, I think it's pretty much he's going to see out his last year, his contract, maybe get the odd couple of minutes here and there. So that's two kind of right away that's not really going to get a look in for me. Abada, I hope is still here because I think he'll really, really kick on this year. Rocco Vata, see, to be honest with you, see with Rocco Vata, and I know we kind of talk about it every week, see if the Lowland League and the rules and everything are going to stay the way they are. And as you say, we've brought in Tilio and this Korean. I'd maybe be looking to get Rocco Vata out on loan. Get him out on loan time, get him regular game time. He's obviously still really young, and maybe kind of obviously keep eyes on that for moving forward into next season. Who else was there? Did we say Maida? That was the other one. Watching, obviously, granted, it's a 5-minute video on YouTube with him against the Portuguese team the other day. I thought it was quite interesting because it looked, and as I say, it is only a wee kind of clip, but it looks as if Maida was playing through the middle as opposed to playing out wide. So I'd like to see sign another striker, but if he's going to see Maida as a striker, and we'll see how that goes, we might not need another one for bringing in Tetty and then obviously push Maida in them.
Totally agree with that, James. Totally agree, mate. And I think the reason why Vata hasn't been sent out on loan yet is it so that Rodgers can take him pre-season, can install the way that Rodgers wants to play, what he expects, his levels, let him show that in the pre-season, and then he'll send him out on loan to somebody. Mm-hmm. But no, I do think we're certainly overloaded with wingers, but we're not overloaded with quality. Yes, Jota went 25 million in the bank, or 20 million, 19 million, whatever it is, after the selling fee was paid back to Benfica. We don't have that replacement for Jota, even though I don't think, and I know this is probably said after the fact because he's away, but I think Jota was a bit overrated. Yes, produced moments of magic, was a big part player for us, but he was a guy who at times didn't do much. I would be looking at the likes of Tilio and saying, right, we want players who are more direct, right? Tilio, Maeda and Abada, if Rodgers can get the best out of them, is probably the most direct players in the club. Mikey Johnson's already out for 3 months with a back injury. Rodgers has said that he's out for 3 months straight away. He ain't coming back for that. He might have got a chance to impress in pre-season, potentially, but I think that's it. I think that's the end for that boy. Unfortunately, you might call it that, but there's no way he's coming back for him. So he'd be as well just fucking moving on, because these guys like Tilio are going to come in and they're going to take his place, and he's not going to be able to bring himself back. He's not going to be able to bring himself up to that level to kind of take over. I get the fact that he's Scottish. He's probably the best factor that he's got to be at Celtic is because he's Scottish and he can be part of that kind of contingent where you've got to play your homegrown players, for Europe and stuff. But nah, he's done for me. So we need to look forward and we need to get in this replacement or an addition because Jota's left. Tete is the number one guy. I think he's got to be there because we don't have any right-sided wingers who are left-footed. Now, the old-fashioned kind of winger who goes down the park, that's more or less out the window now, isn't it, in modern football. We've had the Jotas on the left cutting, the Maedas who cutting. Yes, Martin Beore is Irish now. He's made a wise choice. But we don't have anybody on the right-hand side that can cut in, who's comfortable cutting in. So I think Tete, we should be really pushing the boat out from. He's played under Rodgers. He knows his style. Hopefully, to God, there's a relationship there. He's a free transfer. All we need to do is take a percentage of money for the Jota transfer and say, right, there you go. Jota's wages whatever they were, say 30 grand, right, there you go, there's 30 grand. If you're wanting 50, right, no bother, we're only paying an extra 20. We're getting you for nothing, you're a fucking 25, 30 million pound player. You know, he came for Shakhtar. They guys always go for big money. He's a Brazilian, he's got that fucking flair. He's confident, he's got the trickery, he's got the speed, he can shoot. He's perfect for Celtic and he's perfect for Brendan Rodgers.
Let us know, the people in the comments, if anybody's getting impatient yet, or if you are indeed just patient, that you've got faith in Celtic, that although we've got the cash, eventually the right players will come. Or tell me if you are content with the squad as it is, especially on the wings, to what we're talking about. Paddy, please swap with Steve Matt on the Boise bus.
I'm sure, I don't know who Steve Matt is, but listen, I'm sure the guy's trying, you know what I mean? He's taking time out to go, and so I wouldn't degrade anybody, I don't know.
So, it might be the transfer window, but not for podcasts. We're not doing any swap deals here. Another thing, James, Anthony Joseph, the Scottish reporter, he'd actually reported that we were interested in that Livakovic, if that's how you pronounce the guy's name, the Croatian goalkeeper. Now, admittedly, I think he's now signed for Fenerbahce, but the fact that he was reporting that, it makes me sound like there was legitimate interest from Celtic. So my question to you is, does that tell us that Brendan Rodgers is prioritising a new number one?
I think so, especially with the money that was mentioned as well. I think his release clause was at 8 or 9 million. So if we're going to throw that at a goalie, then obviously it is kind of one of the priorities, which is good for me. Nothing against Joe Hart, but I just don't think he'll be good enough moving forward. I think he kind of tapered off massively towards the end of last season, as everybody did. But I've said it on here before, our goalies, and certainly in recent history, guys like Boruc, Forster, even Craig Gordon as well, you could always point to a game and say he was brilliant, he really kept us in it there. I don't think we've had that really yet with Joe Hart. And again, that's no a slight on him, because he has been good enough. Seems a nice guy and all the rest of it, but I just think we need better. I just don't think he's going to date for his next season. And if we all really want to progress, for me, obviously it would be the winger with Jota even, but based on last season, you could probably state a case that was the kind of weak link in the team.
There was a question in the fan media posed to Brendan Rodgers, and it was about Joe Hart. And the question, it came from the Celtic Huddle breakdown from Enda Call. That's the guy's name, the Irish boy, who's the host for that podcast. He asked Brendan about Joe Hart, and he highlighted the fact that Joe Hart was of that generation, one of the last of his generation, where goalkeepers weren't prioritising playing the ball with their feet. And he posed a question to Brendan Rodgers about that. And Rodgers never said yea or nay. He basically alluded to that we're sizing everybody up right now. And he never said that Joe Hart will be the number one. So I found that quite illuminating. Paddy, sorry, what were you...
I was just going to say to David there, guys, me and my boys worked out a list of 17 players still on Celtic books that could be moved on. Only Turnbull and Forrest get game time from that 17. So if you don't mind, mate, can you put up that list of 17 names? Because I'd be interested to hear them. But on your comment about the goalkeeper, I was gutted to see Livakovic sign for, was it Fenerbahce or Villarreal he went to?
Fenerbahce, I think.
Very, very good goalkeeper. I would have loved to have seen him at Celtic Park. I've seen a lot of Croatians basically say that he's very, very good shot stopper, suspected crosses, and commanding his area, as well as his passing, which, again, modern football now, they all want their goalkeepers to be able to pass the ball. But I'm sure I've seen that quote or something similar for Anthony Joseph as well, that says that, you know, Celtic were definitely in the market for a goalkeeper. It'll be interesting, because I think it's probably going to be a name that comes out of nowhere. I would like it to be a big kind of name like a Livakovic, because goalkeepers has always been a kind of area that we've always penny pinched on, right?
Historically,
I'm
yeah.
not even going to include Barkas in that, because at least we went out and tried to sign somebody and we spent £5 million on him, even if he was fucking absolute dog shit. But like Douglas was £2 million. Johnny Gould was a fucking third choice player at Bradford Reserves. Craig Gordon never cost a penny. Who else? I don't know. I think Rab Douglas is the most expensive goalkeeper that we've ever signed. No, Forster. We paid £2 million for Forster as well. Eventually, even though he was did forgetting about 4 Celtic, but we've never really went out and pushed the boat out for goalkeeper. We've been lucky with Arthur Boric, world class goalkeeper. Ryan Kent, fuck, I forgot about that goth bastard. So I again, we've never really went out and said, right, we're going to make a statement of intent here and buy a goalkeeper, because we need somebody there who's going to instill confidence for the defence. He's going to help the defence out. He's going to be a presence. Going to be this. Going to be that. We've been lucky with Joe Hart. I really don't want to degrade him too much, right? Because I think he's came here. He's did what he's had to do. Has he been suspect? Aye. Yep, absolutely. Name me one goalkeeper in the world and history of football who hasn't been suspect at some point. But he's come in. He's did what he's had to do. He's improved on the goalkeeping situation, and he's shown confidence, he's shown leadership. I think it's just been a positive sign, Joe Hart. But can we do better? Yes. Do we need to replace him right now? I don't know. Probably aye. But I would rather see us bringing in a goalkeeper who's going to challenge to be number one, rather than somebody who's going to take over for Joe Hart. Yeah. So hopefully that's something that we're going to be looking at very, very soon, because Siegrist, by all accounts, is wanting to go to Australia to be with some lassie that he's met on the Australian tour. He's still part of pre-season, because you can see him there. He looks happy enough. Scott Bain isn't good enough to be number one. He's good enough to be number 3, which is fine. Hazard's away, so we're left with really nobody. If Siegrist goes, we're left with 2 goalkeepers. You know what I mean? And one of them isn't going to play.
That's good for Siegrist, finding a bit of love on Tinder or whatever.
Anyway, it's not the worst reason to leave a club, is it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, aye. Better than being a fucking lorry driver, wasn't it? George Connolly back in the day. James, if I was to ask you this question, now, what would you prefer? Let's say you're getting in a new keeper who's a good shot stopper. What would you prioritise as other skill to be? A great a person who commands his box and he's good at crosses, or someone who's shit hot at playing with his feet? Because playing with his feet would really enhance our passing game, building from the back. Be very good in Europe as well. However, commanding your box and collecting crosses is so significant in the league that we play in. We would get exploited by our closest rivals if we had a keeper who was shite at that. So, bearing in mind how we want to play, but knowing where we play, what one would you prioritise?
I think with Rodgers as manager and the way that we're going to play, I think you would have to prioritise with the ball at his feet. And that's, look, I'm still of the opinion that a goalie's job's to keep the ball out the net. So that's the main thing. And obviously Joe Hart's kind of main downfall throughout his career has always been playing with the ball at his feet. It's why Guardiola got rid of him at Man City. But even with that, towards the end of the season, kind of second half onwards, it felt as if there was a few times sitting at Parkhead or sitting watching away games or whatever, you were turning around, you were going, he should have probably done a wee bit better there. And it felt as if it picked up massively towards the end of the season after the league was won, and obviously everybody kind of tapered off. So I would like us to go and see us sign a number one. I think a lot of managers, just the way FIP has gone, a lot of managers see a goalkeeper essentially as an extra outfield player. The way I look at them talk. But for me, if he can keep the ball at the net, that's the main thing. I don't think Fraser Forster first signed, he could barely keep his kicks in the park. But he improved on it. Obviously, it was never his main attribute. It never has been, it never will be. But Fraser Forster was absolutely fantastic. The same for Boric. So you still remember a goalkeeper for the saves they make. You don't remember for the passes they play. So for me personally, make good saves, catch the ball for crosses. I don't care how good or bad you are with your feet. That's the main two for me. But I think Rodgers will see it as the opposite. As he done with De Vries when he came in. Apparently he was meant to be really good with his feet, but he couldn't catch a cold, so he didn't last and he was gone.
Well, I can see Frank's point to an extent, even though you're a fucking grumpy bastard. Of course, Champions League group stages, standard goalkeeper would cost us at least 30 million, probably near the 40 million. That type would never ever come in the SPL. Listen,
can I just add into that though? Not with me. Fraser Forster didn't cost us 30 or 40 million. It was outstanding in the Champions League group stage. Arthur Boric didn't cost us 30 or 40 million. We need to fit 30 or 40 million is when you're looking at your Real Madrid's, Man City and teams like that. We need to get them the step before. Nobody's saying we're going to go and win the Champions League or even get out the group stages. Obviously, you aspire to do it. But if we can acquit ourselves well, sneak a second place, and as I've said before, I'd be happy enough with Europa, depending on the group. You don't need to spend 30 or 40 million to get a Champions League calibre player.
Well, there you are. There's Man United signed that boy Onana, or in the process of signing him, Onana.
What's his name?
For Milan. 54 million, I think it's been quoted at. But he's one of the keepers who falls in line with modern football now. He's one of these goalkeepers that can pass. He wants to be a defender. He's playing out that fucking far, and he's also a great shot stopper. We don't need to go and find that. We need to go and find somebody who's a good solid goalkeeper. James, spot on, mate. Absolutely spot on. Didn't cost the world for Arthur Boric. It didn't cost the world for Fraser Forster. We just need to find a good goalkeeper. There's players there who didn't hardly cost a penny and have been brilliant in the Champions League. No for Celtic. Well, not necessarily for Celtic, but in general. You know what I mean? It's all about who we can find. Can we find the guys with confidence? Can we find the guy with the good reflexes? Can we find the guy that commands his box? Fraser Forster couldn't command his box. The guy was 6'7". I've never ever heard such a quiet goalkeeper in all my life. Plenty of times I went to away games and sat kind of about 2 seats to the front. Never heard him shouting once. You know what I mean? Boric shouting at every cunt. Wasn't great in there. But the saves were fit. The saves were perfect. You know what I mean? And they got us out of trouble a lot of times. So if we can find somebody of that ilk who's good as a goalkeeper first and foremost, great. See if they can pass the ball a wee bit, great. See if they can pass it to the defenders. Let them fucking pass it about.
James, I totally agree with you. Like the kind of the waters that we operate in for the transfer market, we need to be getting. We don't need to be going for the Champions League ready player. It's just being cute enough in the scouting department to identify, the up and coming players. And obviously, we're kind of trying to do that by looking at, a part of the world where not many people exploit. Ironically, I would love a keeper who could save a penalty or two, but ironically, Joe Hart will save a penalty in the game against Portimonense. Ironic. Maybe Brendan Rodgers has turned them around. Maybe it's going to be a new Joe Hart. You never know. Paddy, time is getting on in the podcast, so do you want to lead the way with the theme for tonight?
So again, I couldn't really nail down a title, right? So basically, everybody in the comments chime in with your answers as well. I was thinking about James McCarthy, right? And obviously,
you every night.
I've got James McCarthy fucking pulling all up his face on it.
And a post on the ceiling.
That's why I can't get to sleep. It's fucking frightening. No, but just the fact that he's a player that we've always quoted. Fans have always wanted because of that Celtic connection, the Irish connection, But even at that, it was a good, solid player. And really should have been perfect for Celtic. But again, came in to plenty of hype and is leaving, or is probably going to leave, having done fucking hee-haw. So I was thinking a wee topic for the night, and I've asked the guys to give us a team of 11 players of players who basically were quoted, well quoted, and who really should have done better. So I'll probably start off with a guy who isn't here. Gav, you're going to love this. Right, so I'm going to start off with McGinty's 11.
Is he starting off with... Right, is Zaluska?
So
Zaluska was a disappointment for him. Did
What's up?
did McGinty not one episode put down Zaluska as an unsung hero?
Yes.
Fucking
And
hell, man.
hold on, I'm actually going to go into his comments. I'm actually going to go into his comments and explain this one, right? Just didn't end up at the level I thought or hoped. Like, what the fuck were you expecting for Lucas Zaluska? But Zaluska in goals, right? Edson Brafied at left back. That's a fair comment. Came in a very late loan to Bayern Munich. Rafa Scheidt, £6 million signing for Brazil. Everybody had very much high hopes for that. Ronya, I think he was quoted by like AC Milan, players like that.
Oh,
Chad
no.
Levine.
Ronya's wrong. You're getting him mixed up with the left back that I've chosen.
I know. I couldn't. I thought he was getting. He was linked with him as well, but whoever it was, I'm sure Ronya was linked with a couple of big names in Europe, and then came to Celtic along with fucking. Was it Josh Thompson?
Josh Thompson, did he come from like Peterborough or something?
Aye, fucking QE2 turns quicker than him, man. He was horrendous.
Chad Lee. Was he the? Was
Can I just say to Patrick McLaughlin, the theme is basically an 11 of players who came in with a reputation, or you thought was going to be shit hot for Celtic, but it just never worked out. That's the gist of it. Sorry, Patrick.
No worries. Chad Lee. Aye, push. Tommy Graham signed for Real Madrid. Can I say it all? A bombshell. Donati, one-time £10 million signing for AC Milan. Flat to deceive. He had a couple of good moments, but nothing great. Crosas, Barcelona. Never really did much apart from that 30-plus yard screamer. Juninho, World Cup winner. Midfielder, sorry. World Cup winner is what I meant to say. Properly played at a position by Martin O'Neill. Never made an impact. I'm not too sure about Miku and Bangura. Miku, I wasn't really expecting much. I think he came for, I think it was Valladolid or something on loan. Did a job against Barcelona in that famous 2-1 victory, so I'm not going to say too much about him myself. And Mo Bangura, recommended by none other than Henrik Larsson. Some say it was the wrong Bangura that was signed, but yes, he was pish. Came back to haunt us right enough when he played against us. On loan against us, on loan from us, I'm sure.
I'm surprised that McGinty's put in Crosas because he came from Barcelona and McGinty loves everything to do with Barcelona. So I'm surprised that he put him in there, but I do agree that Crosas was a bit of a letdown.
Right, we shall move on to the young man at the bottom. James, give us a rundown and the reasons why.
So I've cheated a wee bit with a goalie because obviously technically never played for us, but I was struggling for a goalie. So
well, he did play for us.
He never actually signed a contract. He obviously played against Wolves in trials. So growing up, I thought Pleticosa was shit hot, and he was one of the players that you tended to only see at the World Cup and the Euros and things like that. And he always seemed to play really well. He played against us for Spartak Moscow, the game we get through in penalties. I thought he was really good both legs then, so I was really excited when we took him in trial. Obviously, we ended up no signing him. Cheating a wee bit with that one because I couldn't really think. I didn't want to put Barkas because I didn't know anything about Barkas prior to him signing. So I went with Pleticosa in goal. I've put Timo Weah at right back because it's where he plays now and I was struggling for a right back. I actually thought Timo Weah, probably similar to John Guidetti or Camonte. I really like Timo Weah, but obviously the falling out with Neil Lennon kind of killed his Celtic career before it technically really even started. Shane Duffy's fairly self-explanatory. Stefan Henshaw's another one coming with great pedigree, and he wasn't even one of the kind of retirement home players. I think when he signed, he was maybe with 30 or 31. He obviously won the UEFA Cup, and I think they won the Super Cup as well with Liverpool. Won the FA Cup final as well, the game against Arsenal where Michael Owen scored. As I said, came in with a decent pedigree, just did not work out. Laxalt, pretty similar. Came in, good pedigree. I think it was it the 2018 World Cup? He was a real standout. I think he came into the tournament or something. And obviously, he looked promising to start, and then kind of Lennon get his hands on him and coached his ability at him. Richter again, fully self-explanatory, decent price tag. Played the Champions League with Ajax, just injured all the time he was. I think he actually looked all right on the very rare occasion that he played. I remember him playing in the San Siro one of the games, and he looked no bad. Efrain Juarez maybe didn't come in with a lot of hype, but that was why the ones I went kind of ball deep in on YouTube. And then obviously they started Hud scoring against was it Braga and Utrecht, and then obviously what allegedly happened, and that was him done. Yuri Yarashik. I will. Yuri Yarashik. I was torn between Yarashik or Gravison. I went with Yarashik because I don't think Gravison was terrible for us. I think Yarashik was another one. He wasn't retirement age. He was maybe a wee bit younger. Obviously got the goal against Shakhtar Donetsk. I think that's what a lot of people remember him here for. Didn't really do much else. Charlie Masonda, I think it was a £2 or £3 million loan fee we paid for him. The Zenit game, again, one game it sticks in the mind for that period he was here. Didn't do anything. John Guidetti, I'll defend John Guidetti. I like John Guidetti. Obviously just went tits up at the end of the season. He's another one coming with a decent pedigree, coming in from Man City. Having played really well for the loan season at Feyenoord. I think he's still a bit of a kind of cult hero with him. I still like John Guidetti. And Jeremy Aliadiel, that was the other one. I was really, really excited. I think he made his debut the same game as Boric. I'm sure it was a pre-season game against Leicester. Obviously, he was a member of Arsenal's Invincibles squad player, but he did play a few games. I was really excited to get him in. Obviously, played the 2 games against Bratislava, and I think that was actually all he actually played for us competitively. But that was my team. So I'm cheating with a goalie, and I've stuck Timo Weah in at right back because technically I think he plays as a right back now. So that's my team. And I'd have
I wouldn't say you cheated with a goalie, mate, because I think I was the same boat as you, mate. I saw Pleticosa plenty. As you say, played at the World Cups, he came in, and I can't mind who he played against in a friendly, but I thought he was good. I thought he was decent, and then we just never signed him.
It was Wolves, because we had three trialists that game. We had Pleticosa, a wee South African striker in Fela, and then I think he was for the Czech Republic, Milos Lachny, but he ended up popping up 10 years later at Dundee United and was absolutely dog shite.
Sorry, right. Why is Timo Weah at right back?
I questioned this as well, Gav. I questioned it. I was laughing when he put it in. I said, did you just shoehorn him into that position or what?
So Timo Weah, I know he didn't play right back for us. He was kind of winger or up front. He is now playing his trade at right back. I caught that in the World Cup, and he's just signed for Juventus. And he basically plays right back now, so I couldn't think of right back, so I stuck him in there because that is technically his position now.
I couldn't think he was right back because I remember him when he was really fucking. He was getting pushed off the ball by midgets. Sorry, vertically challenged people. My apologies. Gav, you are up next, my man.
So I am. Right, okay, so Magnus Hedman in goal. He'd obviously
just wife.
Yeah, just a typical Scandinavian bird, wasn't it? Which is setting the bar rather high, if I'm being honest. Hedman played the majority of his trade in England. He came up here under a Martin O'Neill team. I think it was near the end of O'Neill's tenure, and Hedman, he just flattered to deceive. We found out that he was not a very good goalkeeper. Maybe he once was a good goalkeeper, but certainly not up here. I've got one enduring memory. We were under the cosh at Ibrox. I think we were defending a lead, and it was near the end of the game, and we managed to win possession. He managed to get the ball, and it's one of the ones you're saying to him, hold on to it, drag out a bit of time, time waste, fall on the deck, do something. But he ended up like a pure volley. He just punted it out for a shy for Rangers, and it just immediately gave them possession again. I remember Neil Lennon berating them for doing that. It was just a lack of experience, and I guess it kind of summed up his tenure at Parkhead. In defence, Jeremy Toljan, the guy that we got on loan from Borussia Dortmund, he was a fraud, an absolute charlatan of a footballer. I thought coming from Borussia Dortmund, and they were good at the time. I'm thinking surely a backup right back for Dortmund is going to be worth his salt. He didn't fancy as soon as he came to Scotland. He didn't fancy it at all. He wasn't interested. He didn't. He just didn't try. He didn't put any physical effort, and it showed. He was a terrible signing, and he's kind of in the mould of an Edson Braafheid, but I wanted to put in Toljan. Now, switching to the left back, Milan Misun. Now, I could be being harsh with the boy, but he did come into a lot of fanfare because we were told that we had to battle AC Milan to get this young boy, and we paid just under $1 million for him. He looked the part, he looked an athlete, but he was fucking slow, very, very slow. He couldn't run, he was shite. He played a handful of games, and then he left Celtic, and I don't know, he might have joined the circus for all I know. He was just a terrible footballer. Raphael Scheid probably sums up this whole theme tonight perfectly. A guy who came into a lot of fanfare who was literally shite. Now, due to the corruption in Brazil, you had a lot of players who would actually be given international caps. Their agent would give a bribe, a bung to the Brazilian Federation. They would get the cap, and that would immediately boost their transfer value. And we fell for it, man. We fucking fell for it. And we bought a Scheid for whatever, 4 million, 5 million, John Barnes signing. It was absolutely terrible. And Adam Virgo. Adam Virgo is a surprise inclusion. We got him in 2005 from Brighton. Now, the defender, he'd had a successful time in the Championship, and he'd been voted the Player of the Year immediately prior to his move to Glasgow. We bought him for 1.5 million, and he ended up leaving Celtic on a free because he was that bad. I remember a bit of hype about the guy as well. And it must have been a slow week in the media back then because I remember the newspapers talking a lot about him. I think people were getting excited. It was a God-striking signing. It was just really poor. In midfield, Gravison, just a headless chicken. What really annoys me about Gravison is you heard it from Aidan McGeady. In training, Gravison was shit hot. He had such an undeniable football talent, but he couldn't replicate that in games. And that, it's difficult for me as a fan to comprehend that. But as a footballer, as a pro, I guess you probably see that a lot with players who can do it on the training park, but under pressure, under the lights, somehow they don't perform. Now, obviously, he had a successful football career, played for Everton, he went to Real Madrid, etc., but he just didn't hit the heights, Kouassi, we signed him, we shelled out about almost £3 million for him. We got him for some Russian team. I thought it was a letdown. I've made one phone call in my life to the Super Scoreboard, and it was about Kouassi to question the transfer policy. And Hugh Keevans spoke about how Brendan Rodgers had to make a phone call to the visa department to say, give this boy a visa because he's going to be the next Philip Coutinho. That's what he said. That's what Hugh Keevans said on the phone-in chat. I've never phoned in again since then because it was just a load of drivel. And Kouassi was a load of drivel too. Donati, I thought Donati was going to be shit hot. AC Milan bought him for over 10 million. He looked the part, a big Italian guy, he just flattered to deceive. Donati wasn't shite. He wasn't good enough. And Juarez looked the part as well. He had the successful World Cup with Mexico. He came to Celtic, and James has already talked about Juarez, but it went very badly. Tommy Johnson up front. We had signed good strikers in that period of time. We had Chris Sutton, Henrik Larsson, previously Mark Viduka as well. Tommy Johnson wasn't great. We bought him from Aston Villa for a couple of million. He was a wee cheeky face, but it just didn't date for us at all. Again, he was slow as a week in the deal too. And finally, Harold Bratback, if they never scored that goal against St Johnstone, he would definitely be talked about in a more disdainful tone. Bratback, we really needed our strikers to perform at that point, and he wasn't great, was he? A very, very intelligent boy. And he was great for Copenhagen. He actually came back to haunt us in the Champions League. Scored a hat-trick against us, I believe. But Bratback didn't do it for Celtic. Just a shame. But that's me. That's my 11.
I think that's very, very harsh on the top too, Gav, but it's your opinion, mate. You're more than allowed it.
So I get dug up for Timo Way at right back, but Gav's allowed fucking Gravison and Juarez on the wings, aye?
I'm playing a diamond. It's Paddy's
No,
fault.
listen, you never get caught up. It was more an inquisitive question, like why the fuck is Timo Way at right back? Right, I'll get mines up. Right, I've seen all your stuff. Tried to include some others. At the back, Mark Brown, terrible goalkeeper. Didn't look like a goalkeeper. He looked very, very small. Didn't look as if he would be able to make a save. Just pure pish. Andy Hinkle. This is probably the one that's going to. This is probably the one that's going to be a bit the most decisive one with the lot of them. But I honestly thought it Flaherty deceived me. I was really, really happy to see this guy coming up for Sevilla, and that's the reason why he's in here, because I thought it was going to be so much better than what it was. But average, couldn't stop a cross, wasn't the greatest defender. I never ever saw it with him. As much as he's not one of the worst players I've ever seen, but because of the fanfare, him 2.1 million or something for Sevilla, I really, really thought we were going to get a gem, but we ended up with a shite. Douay, yeah, aye, Hinkle. Douay, right? Yeah. The name that fucking brings horrors to your memory. This guy was supposedly the biggest thing to come out of China. He was quite big. He was like 6'3". I was at that game at Clyde when he made his debut, and I saw this big laddie walking out, big massive head, big shoulders, big stocky laddie, and I'm thinking, God, he's fucking very, very physical looking. And I've never seen such a weak, meek performance in all of my days. I've never ever seen anybody that size being bullied by fucking small pub players for Clyde. Just absolutely terrible. Hooked after about fucking 30 odd minutes or something. The worst player I've ever seen. Come on, lanky. Fuck's sake. Hoyveld was another one. We needed defensive stability at the time under Tony Mowbray. He changed a lot. Brought in guys, and I liked Big Mr. I liked Big Mastorovic. I know people really, really didn't rate him, but I liked him. But we needed better at the time, and we signed Hoyveld from, was it AIK?
Aye,
AIK. So it was a Dutch defender signed for Greece, Sweden. Sorry. Come in, spoke well, bigged himself up again, like the two Korean boys have done recently. And just never done anything. I think he played about 5 games or something. I might be wrong there, but just a waste of money. Total waste of money. The guy at the left, I don't know if anybody can remember him, but that's another Mowbray signing. Danny Fox, supposedly the best left peg since Nakamura. A free kick specialist is what Tony Mowbray called him. Never scored a free kick once. Not that I can remember anyway. If he did, I must have been fucking sleeping watching him. 1.5 million, just typically the Tony Mowbray area. Waste of money. I don't even remember where he went to. I don't remember what he done after he left Celtic, but dreadful. Nguemo, I thought he looked decent when he first came in, but he was another wee guy who his second touch was a tackle. That's how bad his first touch was. If you thought Kouassi was bad, if you thought this one was bad, that one was bad, Nguemo was worse. Zheng Ji, right, this might be a wee bit unfair. I know he scored an equaliser at Ibrox, which is probably his only standout moment at Celtic. Signed him on a free for Charlton, where he had a decent career. Captain of China when we signed him, and never really.
I think you're thinking of that El Kaduri, mate. Zheng Ji scored against Hearts at Tynecastle.
No, Zheng Ji scored at Ibrox.
Scored against Rangers?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I'd argue that one, but yeah, I don't think he did.
I'm 100%. Go and Google it now, mate. I'm 100% sure, but if I'm wrong, then I'm not 100% sure. And I will certainly apologise, but I'm positive he scored at Ibrox. Right, on the wings, I've got Freddie Ljungberg. That was a big name coming to Celtic. I know he came from, was it China or Japan or something? After he'd left Arsenal and whatnot, came into great fanfare, big massive name coming in, terrible, shadow of his former self, never done a thing, played about 6 games, then he was away after 9 months, shocking. Paddy McCourt, I know people love him, I know he's a maverick, I know he's a cult hero.
He's also a very naughty boy.
Hey, that's a touchy subject. He was a guy who has been said that he was born in the wrong era, this and that. Thought of shite. He was just an unfit player. He'd amazing skill, scored some absolute crackers, but I tell you what, they crackers were against shite teams. He never really scored any important goals. Just overall wasn't good enough. But listen, the Danny Pelly came in, got some bums off seats at times, couple of good goals, couple of good YouTube highlights. Probably his best performance I seen came at Ibrox, I'm sure it was, and he played centre mid, and I thought his range of passing was excellent. I'd have loved to have seen more of him in that position, but he never left, never done anything after that either. The middle one there, again, this might be a wee bit unfair, but David Fernandez. Do you remember them?
Yeah, for Livingston.
Yeah. Martin O'Neill signed him for £1 million. I think that was after the Seville season, and I think that was his only signing, that transfer window, if memory serves right, which James is probably going to tell my mum. £1 million signing for Livingston. You're thinking you're getting this kind of Spanish maverick. You ended up with a fucking Spanish fucking jobby turd. Overweight, slow, never really made any impact whatsoever. And funnily enough, the guy's actually had a very, very good career after football, because he's actually, the last time I checked, he was Man City's Spanish scout. So basically he goes and scouts Spain for Man City. And up front, again, another one for the Tony Mowbray era. We were struggling for goals, and we signed Morten Rasmussen for, I think it was just over £2 million.
Am I right in saying he scored in his debut for Celtic against Hibs at Parkhead?
I think he did, mate. And it looked to be a positive signing. Again, we were struggling for goals under Mowbray. Antoine Fortuny, who's on your team, that wasn't doing anything. We went out and we recruited Rasmussen, and he looked to be that kind of physical, imposing player that we needed. A guy who had a decent goal scoring record in Denmark. And this guy had a fatter arse than Scott McDonald and fucking anybody else combined. Slow, lethargic, pish. And that's the reasons for my team. You guys talking to me. I'm going to get the comments up there now.
Oh, there was one player that I wanted. See, Lundberg. I think that Lundberg's game was all about running into the box from midfield. Whenever he signed for Celtic, his legs were obviously gone. So
it was done.
Yeah. Paddy McCourt bailed us out of a few games, but you know, you just remember that. Do you remember that? No, I'm not disagreeing with you. Do you remember that game that he played in the centre midfield at Ibrox, the one that we won?
Yep.
Don't know if that was the Samaras game. I don't know. Yeah, kind of difficult to disagree. Maybe Hinkle I would take issue with.
As I say, well, there's Patrick McLaughlin saying that Hinkle wasn't that bad. Hinkle wasn't that bad, was he? No, it wasn't that bad, but the whole kind of reason for the topic is that players are included because you were expecting more. So this guy was for Sevilla. He had a good record in Germany, blah, blah, blah. I thought we were going to get so much better, but again, he was decent going forward, but I don't think he was a good defender.
Just reading a wee bit about Fabrizio Romano, who was talking about Tete. He's basically saying that they're still having internal discussions. I think when you have money, it's not easy on the market because they know that you have an important budget to sign that player. And he said that's probably why they're taking time to assess their options and find the best one. Tete could be one of them, but I'm sure he's not the only one. I think Romano's getting above the station, actually thinking for a change rather than just reporting the hard facts here. By the way, on this day, 18th of July 1991, a player who kind of is befitting of this discussion, Tony Cascarino, we signed him from Villa for 1.1 million, an Irish international. He said that it was the right move at the wrong time. He was deplorable for us. He could barely score. He could barely make an assist either. Cascarino was a half-decent player in his career, but not for Celtic. Kind of before my time. I was obviously alive, but I don't really remember him as a Celtic player, which is probably to my advantage. Yeah. Aye, that was a good wee idea, Paddy. Round of applause for yourself. Well done, mate.
Thank you.
So
Tony Cascarino, what else can you say about that man? I think the only positive to come out of Tony Cascarino was the fact that we managed to swap him for Tom Boyd.
Aye, Tom Boyd. Yeah, that was definitely one of the better swaps we've made. And if you were to flip it, the worst swap we've ever made, probably getting rid of the Canio in exchange for a Reggie Blinker.
What was I reading? I was reading something the other day and it was for Jock Brown. You remember him?
Yes.
Craig Brown's brother. He was the general manager, Celtic. And I think it was something along the lines of... what was it now? That's what it was. It was the swap that Paolo Di Canio was used as a swap tool to get Reggie Blinker in. No bother, Jock.
Aye, brilliant. Talk about trying to control the narrative. Can I ask Patrick McLaughlin here? So you've said that Andy Walker the second time around was a big letdown, and then you're also saying McAvenny second time around. I know that Charlie Nicholas as well came back to play for Celtic second time around. So who was the bigger letdown out of Andy Walker, Frank McAvenny, or Charlie Nicholas the second time around? Let us know. Oh yeah. By the way, here I've actually got Carol Muggleton's autograph. I don't know why.
Did they drop the pen?
Yeah. One of the ones is a wee guy. You're just kind of loitering outside Celtic Park, and you know you're just like half the players you don't even know at that age. You know. I remember I got Paolo Di Canio's autograph just as he signed for us, and I didn't say a word to him. Like, probably he wouldn't have been able to reciprocate because I don't think he spoke English at the time. But no, didn't even say a word to him. Probably too shy, I think. Aye, so let us know. Walker, you would say that Walker was the worst out of McAvenny and Charlie Nicholas as well for the second time around. Interesting. Guys,
I'm going to... sorry, mate, man, on that connection that went there. I didn't realise you were speaking. On you go.
I was going to give you a list of the teams who've qualified for the Champions League and ask who you might fancy, but what were you going to say?
I was just going to bring up that photo that I sent you earlier on. So somebody on Twitter, Grand Old Team, has posted up a piece of information. It's quite interesting. 2 seconds to get rid of fucking some hun. Honestly. Fuck off. It's no use, studs. Don't worry, mate.
Are you sure he was a blue nose? Or was he just...
Don't know. It was them or not, anyway. Judge, jury, and executioner. Celtic's loan with Co-op will be fully paid this month. The £21 million loan was taken in 2001. Celtic also had a £7.3 million overdraft then. Since then, Celtic hasn't taken £1 from a bank and had 1 million share issue in 2005. They have utterly dominated Scottish football while being self-sustaining. I think that's a top fact if that's bang on the money.
Aye. Again, a lot of people don't like to give Peter Lawwell credit. I know that he's not the sole contributor to that fact, but certainly he would be instrumental in it. The turn of the century, where Celtic were competing in an environment where their closest rival was getting away without paying national insurance contributions and tax for players' wages. You'd be tempted, weaker people would have been tempted to make financial mistakes, but we stuck to our mantra, to our goals, our targets, and the proof is in the pudding. From what you say there, we're no longer in debt to the bank. So it's a great thing to think about, especially whenever you consider about some of the fools who are in charge of football clubs up and down the UK, putting historic clubs into liquidation. You would think that day would never ever arrive at Parkhead again in our lifetime, but it makes you proud, and it's good news. It's good news. Being financially frugal. Well, at the same thing, given success, because since the turn of the century, we've been the most successful team in Scotland. The trophies are there to back that up. We have been, and we've been doing it within the parameters of operating legally. So that's great.
I'm just looking at it as well. So if that came in 2001, you could probably maybe look into it and maybe assume that was taken out to kind of part of the Neil Revolution. You know what I mean? Or at least partially. So it's taken us what? In nearly 22 years to pay off.
Yeah.
Interesting. Aye, listen, they kind of things is where you can actually turn around and say, well, the board have done no bad. You know what I mean? They've done no bad. Aye, of course, it's impinged on the playing side of things, but again, if you look at some clubs, currently that are overspending, spending out with their means. That's a business model where we've been very, very successful. And to get the success that we've had since the turn of the century, whilst being successful off the park, this is the things that are overlooked. Because let's be honest, Celtic as a business, it's got to be run as a business. There's overheads, there's fucking wages to pay. You don't run things right, you end up with shit. And that's one of the reasons why I never really bought into the whole, Peter Lawwell was getting 3 million. Peter Lawwell was the most paid CEO in Britain or us. Well, if you think about it, like somebody who's running the club is getting £3 million, but you've went out and spent £3 million on a pure shite left back or a fucking waste of space forward. Do you know what I mean? That's a guy who's running the entire club on a daily basis.
Can I ask you your thoughts on this now? Purely hypothetical. Now, Dermot Desmond, he's our majority shareholder. Now, the popular belief, and what we've been led to believe, is that whenever he does want to stop, to retire officially, he'll be looking to transfer his shareholding to his son, who I think, he's made obviously appearances at Parkhead, so you would imagine his son is being, suited and booted for to be the successor. However, say there was a change in fortune, okay? Say that for one reason or another, that was no longer the plan, and they said, okay, we're going to sell our shares. We're no longer going to pass on to our son, or if it did pass on to the son, say, you'll have other business ventures, and say he gets distracted with other things, he has a setback elsewhere, and he has to cover his losses. So say, for instance, that family want to sell their shares. Now, think of the implications of that, of the different characters that opens up the prospect of giving the majority shareholding to. does that make you feel uneasy that we could be bought over? Again, it's hypothetical, but does that make you feel uneasy that we could be bought over by a shady person, like to pass the kind of that rule of the improper whatever requirement to be a football shareholder? Like Shinawatra got it, who was the Prime Minister of Thailand. He got it for Man City about 15 years ago, and that guy's a criminal in his own country. What I'm just saying is that we could potentially be bought over by someone who wouldn't suit our club, who wouldn't have our best interests at heart. Would you have faith that it would be done in the proper manner, that we would only transfer over the majority shareholding to someone who had the club at their best interests? What do you think of that?
It's a good question, mate. And if you look at historically with Celtic, we've had the issues with the Kellys and the Whites. Desmond will keep it the family. It's his shares. He's more than entitled to do with his shares what he wishes. I think the only way that we could ever deal with that, mate, is by voicing our opinions, potentially protesting if it's a negative, right? Because not everybody that's passed shares down is going to be a fucking disaster or whatever. I think we just need to trust until you can't trust, kind of thing. And then that's when you need to stand up. If we were to sell, what do we know? What do we know, really? Because I'm pretty sure that the majority of people who are multi-millionaires, multi-billionaires have all done something shady at some point. I don't know, unless it's like a fucking known war criminal. You know what I mean? Then you're like, no, it's not happening. But then we let John Reid in. Reading the board, who was a fucking proporter of fucking war crimes, I would say. Again, mate, it's very, very hard to answer. I think if we were to sell up, I would probably say fucking just sell at the highest bidder. We're probably going to get took over at some point in the future, I would imagine, the way it was going on, because the Americans are desperate to buy in. The Saudis are fucking splashing the cash everywhere. Like Newcastle, for talk's sake. Newcastle, Corvo, you can chime in on this one, pal. Newcastle were vilified in the media because they were selling up to Saudis, and it was a whole talk about the kind of human rights stuff in Saudi, this and that. Like, what can you do? What can you do? As I say, you can look at all the ethical things, right? You could put down every single ethical decision that comes out. You could take it down to fucking numero uno. You could look at Adidas fucking employee sweatshops. Adidas employ Pakistani wains, I'm just assuming, for 20 pence an hour. You know what I mean? And selling kits for fucking 80 quid. You could look at Celtic. They're selling, they're sponsoring gambling things. You can look at their food stalls. It's full of fast food, which is unhealthy for kids, this and that. They're fucking using diesel to power their stadium. Where do you stop? Where do you stop? You know what I mean? We're in Britain, and Britain are the biggest fucking warmongers in history. You know what I mean? Like, does that get brought up? Does the human rights violations get brought up in this country? If it was a fucking an English company to take over, I don't know. Where do you draw the line? If it's like maybe fucking, what do you call him, Kim Jong-un trying to buy us, like the North Korean fucking fascists and dictators, then you can go, here, ain't happening. We done it with that fucking baldy Polish bastard. What was his name again?
Yeah, I know.
It's totally.
His name wasn't Campbell, was it? No,
it was another man. It's totally escaped me. But he was a bastard, and the supporters, quite rightly, they were in uproar, and they made a statement. They made their statement. They made their statement known. They made their feelings known that this was not happening. And as far as I'm concerned, they were listened to. So if the case ever arose where something like that was happening in terms of new owners, that's what will happen. You'll hear the wrath. I know if you're looking at maybe Red Bull, for talking sake, Red Bull who can basically take over, they would want to change us to Red Bull. Bernard Higgins, thank you, Diaz. Thank you. If Red Bull, for talking sake, was to take over and wanting to change the name to Red Bull Glasgow, you'd be like, no, fuck off. If they want to change the name of the stadium, no bother. Pay us, give 10 million. We'll still call it Celtic Park. We'll still call it Parkhead. We will not call it Parkers if Dasbo's watching. It's the worst name ever.
Brown Warrior, he's been talking about the German model. Now, funny you should mention Red Bull Leipzig because they have somehow been able to circumnavigate the regulations here because it's meant to be fan ownership. Now, the majority of the clubs are owned by fans in Germany, but the disadvantage of that is that you struggle to inject fresh capital into the club. And so by working within those parameters, you get blown out of the water by, English clubs and stuff like that because they've got wealthy backers. So if it's completely fan ownership, then we've spent 10 million on Barkas and Ajeti. Now, if it's fan ownership, you're going to be more frugal with your finances. And you're going to feel that. You're not then going to have an extra 10 million to say, well, we fucked up this time, but in the January transfer window, we'll make it better again. You wouldn't really have that financial freedom if if you've got a tighter budget, basically. Whereas in England and elsewhere, whenever you've got these wealthy backers, you're able to make mistakes and then bail yourself out of it with more money. I think if we did that, fan ownership, then what happens if our closest rival doesn't adopt or doesn't adhere to that policy? If they get in, some arsehole with money, and it's the 90s all over again. I wouldn't like that. Although you'd be able to take pride that it's fan ownership, but if you're getting beat by your closest rival who've got bigger pockets than us, then how long would you enjoy your fan ownership model?
But let's be honest, Gav, how much of fan ownership is fan ownership? There's obviously going to be a figurehead who's got the majority shares or the majority control of a fan ownership. You know what I mean? And it's going to be a business person. It's going to be somebody with influence. It's going to be somebody with power. No harm to the Celtic support or the supporters of any club, right? But for talking sake, right, a fan ownership, what do you call it?
Conglomerate?
Consortium. I don't know. Trying to find my words.
Consortium.
A consortium, yes, Gavin. A totally fan-owned consortium was to be comprised of entirely season book supporters, right? Season book supporters have all the control. Yes, mate. Be happy an arsehole. So a hypothetical fan ownership consortium comprising solely of season book owners, for talking sake. What the fuck do we know about running a football club? What the fuck do most of us know about running businesses of that ilk?
Yeah, that's the danger of having fans in the boardroom. People want fans in the boardroom, but can you imagine you need to make business decisions? I know it's a football club, but it's essentially a business, and you're making decisions with your heart, but you should really be thinking with your head. That would take years of experience to rein in those emotions. It's a different ball game entirely.
Certainly is, and there's the exact point. Where does your heart stop and where does your head overrule? Do you know what I mean? Because we could easily, like, if I was put in control of Celtic, right? Imagine that. It would be fucking drinking in the stands. It would be fucking party time all over. I'd be out signing £100 million player, and guess what? We've not got £100 million. We might get him. He might do well in the park, but guess what? We're in the fucking shit. You know what I mean? This is unfortunate. That's business. It's unfortunate. People in charge get there for a reason because they're driven, because they've got the contacts, they've got this and that. Sometimes they shouldn't be there. Sometimes they're handed control when they shouldn't be handed it. And that's why we're the plebs. Do you know what I mean? I know I'm fucking like a mad fucking Tory fucking party political broadcaster here, but it's not like that. I'm just being serious. You just need to voice your opinion. Again, I said it earlier on. These people will come in, they'll take over your clubs. Saudis could come in tomorrow and buy us. Here, there's 200 million, right, we're buying you. What can I do about it? What can you do about it? Other than stand up and make your voice known. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just imagining like a similar protest to the Just Stop Oil people. We certainly won't be throwing fucking orange paint around anyway. We'll tell you that for free.
As long as it's followed by green and white. It looks as if it Just Stop Oil's fucking attacked your back run, by the way.
I know, mate. I know it's like a big tricolour bird keek, isn't it?
It's a Jackson Pollock.
Right, Paddy. Wee final question, I guess, for this evening.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going for an hour and 35 minutes. By the way, two of yours, thank you very much for keeping us company. Without you guys, it's no much. So appreciate everything, all your contributions. So I'm going to try and give you... I'll name the teams who are qualified for the Champions League and just a bit of fun. Who would you like to see? Who would you like to avoid? Okay, so for England, you've got Man City, Arsenal, Man U, and Newcastle. I don't know about
sorry. Just repeat that again, Gav.
For England, you've got Man City, Man U, Arsenal, and Newcastle. Now, I don't know about the pots, okay? But certainly Man City, they'll be in pot number one anyway. Any of them that you would like to see at Parkhead? Man City can get the fuck. I don't want to see that back here.
No, Man City is... Yes, they're a fantastic team. They're the current Champions League holders. I think they would absolutely pump us on the park. But my God, what a shit home support there. We would go down to the Etihad and we would outblow them. Fucking, if we had 1,000 people there, we would outsing 40,000, whatever it is they had. It's a terrible place. Football reasons, I would certainly want to avoid them. I'd love Man United because I hate Man United and I'd love to fucking beat them. Newcastle, I would take Newcastle. I think they've got a decent support in general. I went down there for Alan Shearer's testimonial, and to be fair, the arseholes that day was a crowd of Celtic supporters. Castlemilk, I believe. So I would like Newcastle. I'd like to see us beating the Sheikhs.
But as we've been informed by our friend Corvo, that's not going to happen because they're going to be in pot four, same as us.
That's a shame. But well, Corvo, we'll see you in the semi-final.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Corvo, but the last time Newcastle were in the Champions League was that under Bobby Robson. For Spain, you've got Barcelona, they're a strange kettle of fish these days. Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Real Sociedad, and Sevilla. Sevilla are the fifth team included from Spain because they won the Europa League. Any of them?
I don't want to play Barcelona again. It seems as if we play them all the time. Real Madrid, nah, avoid for obvious reasons. I would like to see us playing Sevilla. That would be a good trip.
Sevilla. I would take maybe Sociedad if I could choose, but they'd probably be in pot four. Germany.
Whenever I hear Sociedad, Gav, it takes me back to the 90s, the 90s, when, don't know if anybody for Glasgow or whatever remember it, you could open up the paper, right? A certain paper, and in it would be the listings for like the Sunday teams. And they would always be advertising players needed for such and such club. And it was all clubs that had fucking like pun names. So one of the teams that always pop up in my memory is a Real So Bad. That was like one of the teams, you know what I mean? Fucking brilliant.
For Germany, if you get Bayern Munich.
Yeah, right, Taylor. There you go. You must remember it, mate.
Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund. By the way, I'm still not happy with Dortmund after rolling over to the Rotten Mob in their run to the final in Europe. RB Leipzig and Union Berlin. So Juranovic is in the Champions League.
Give us Berlin.
Berlin. They'll probably be pot 4, but you know, a bit of fun. Yeah, I would be happy to see a reunion with Juranovic.
Well, make it Dortmund then. Fuck it. Let's go for Dortmund.
Well, they're now without Bellingham, so it'd be an interesting matchup. I can't believe they fluffed their lines last day of the season in the Bundesliga. Marco Reus has never won the title with Dortmund. That's mental, and they lose in the final game of the season. Italy, you've got Napoli and Lazio. I heard someone say Nazio the other day. So Napoli, Lazio, Inter Milan, and AC Milan. I wouldn't fancy any of them because I think Lazio actually finished second in the Serie A last season there. I wouldn't fancy any of them at all.
Well, Lazio we've been and done. We've conquered. Avoid Napoli and Lazio for this reason, because their fans are pricks. Just because I used to, I wouldn't say be a fan of them, but I was certainly growing up in the 90s when you had football Lazio. Channel 4 used to love AC Milan. You used to love them.
I was an Inter fan.
Oh yeah? Well, fuck you then. Question for the boys in the panel: how many Celtic supporters are there worldwide? Do you think?
I'm going to assume. I'm going to assume that you've got a number here, a rough number. Maybe they've done a worldwide census. I don't know. Right, Celtic supporters worldwide. Fuck. I would say. What's the population of Scotland?
5 million-ish.
Right, okay. What's the population of Ireland?
I think it's my geography, and that's fucking terrible. It's 6 or 7.
It's right next to us. That's where it is.
Yeah, but I think it's no, I know, but like all that kind of stuff. I think it's about maybe 8 to 10, maybe just more. I
would go for 7 million worldwide.
7 million? What? I'm going to go for 72,689,000 and a half.
Right, Brown Warrior. Has Brown Warrior got an answer here? Come on, let us know. Bill. Right, come on. Don't leave us in suspense here.
Who, me?
No, Brown Warrior. Okay, right.
Aye, so there's about 6. There's about 6 or 7, but between 7 and 8 million. And Ireland as a whole, there is no north and south. There is Ireland and Ireland alone. 32 counties.
Fair dues. Right, I see where you're going with that. As part of the fan revolution. I see where you're going. It'd be great if we could galvanise all the Celtic fans worldwide. That would be something indeed. Right, okay. Spot on Paddy must be 70 plus million. Aye, fucking right.
Well, by the way, just talking about fans, did I send you that thing about Andy Cole the other day?
Andy who?
Andy Cole.
Oh, he favours Celtic over Rangers.
Yes, he was asked a question recently. It was, kind of, who would you support in Scotland,
Right.
and straight away the reporter says straight away.
It's Andrew Cole. It's Andrew Cole. He changed his name from Andy to Andrew.
Pardon me. It was always Andrew. That's on his birth certificate, I think. Andrew Cole, yes, formerly of Man United, Newcastle, Man City as well, funny enough. He was asked the question, who would you support in Scotland? And straight away, before the reporter managed to get the word Scotland, it was with Celtic. And he basically says a great club, great fans, amazing crowd, and he's desperate to come to a game. So we'll maybe try and get him on the pod now. Andrew.
Cracking goal scorer, man. Brilliant player. Do you remember that goal that it was him and Dwight York that scored for Man U against Barcelona, where they linked up? One of them did a dummy, did a 1-2. Beautiful goal. I think that might have been in the Camp Nou as well. Celtic bars, on holiday, it's a thing of beauty. You're never far away from home. Patrick, back to the Champions League. In France, you've got PSG or Lens. I would take Lens. I don't want to see PSG.
No, I've seen it with my fucking Messi terrorising us. Lens. Lonzo, I think you pronounce it.
For Portugal, you've got Benfica or Porto. Yeah, do you hate? Does everybody hate Porto because of what happened in Seville, or is the hatred for some people centred on Jose Mourinho? I've got nothing against Porto.
No, I don't have anything against Porto personally. I used to absolutely despise Jose Mourinho. But you know what? See, the older I get and the more that I look into things, they were dirty, cheating bastards. They were diving cunts. They were this and that. But you know what? Sometimes you've just got to play to your strengths, and that was their strengths. And you look at Mourinho's strengths in mind games and tactical dark arts as part of his repertoire. He done it against Barcelona. Nobody could beat Barcelona on the pitch, so they had to play dirty. And sometimes you need to play dirty. Sometimes it's needed, and I'm absolutely desperate to see that side come back into football where the physicality is brought back in. You've got defenders who are big, ugly, fucking Steve Bruce guys with broken noses pointing to the side because they're getting in for challenges. They're no fucking ripping their fucking tights and scared to make a tackle and just wanting to make Hollywood passes. I mean, no, defend with your life, defend, fucking get through a man. It's there. And as Ryan Taylor says, most sport dark arts are part of winners. Madrid were the best for years. They just look at Ramos and Pepe. Two of the most fucking scumbaggery players you can imagine, but at least they did it with a wee bit of aplomb, you know what I mean? They're not like they're on Mobilanga Road who are just ugly and horrible and scum.
Right. I was watching the telly the other day with my missus on Sky Sports, and up came like an old game of Liverpool. Suarez was playing for them, and she said to me, she doesn't know much about football, but she said, like, isn't that guy who used to bite people? And she says, why did he ever bite people? And I tried to explain it to her that it was like almost like a kind of cultural thing without stereotyping people. But my best explanation was that there are some people, sometimes it depends on where you're from, it's a mentality, but although you might be one of the most talented footballers in the world, which Suarez undoubtedly was at that time, sometimes the will to win is so strong that it brings out that street fighter in you, that you're willing to sink to any depths to win, whether it be playing chess or football. You know, sometimes the will to win is so overwhelming that you're willing to use tactics like that, to bite, to cheat, you know, to rake your studs down the back of someone's Achilles, you know, just the dirtiest things ever. Like, I always think back to those 3 games that we played against, was it Racing Club? You know, for the World Club Cup, after we beat Inter Milan in the 60s, and we faced the dirtiest of opposition, you know, and that was just, you know, reflective of what some people are willing to do. Whether you want to say it's a culture, whether you want to just say it's individuals, but you're just talking about you want to see the Ian Dowies of the world back into the game, but maybe not so much biting. Perhaps that was the point that you're making.
Listen. I mean, I'm from Glasgow, mate. I grew up playing football when you had the screw-in metal studs, and I used to sharpen them before games. Do you know what I mean? To fucking rake them down players' legs. Used to go in for tackles.
Are you a goalkeeper as well?
I played everywhere, mate. Utility man. Was that shite? No, but listen, I grew up playing football with a mitre mould master, playing on red ash pitches in the freezing cold, and you were running about kicking people. You were kicking people more than you were kicking the ball. You know what I mean? I don't mind that part of the game because it's a physical game, and you do things to one up your opponent. There's the whole fucking shoulder barges, the dark arts, this and that. The only thing that really, really, really gets on my goat these days with kind of modern day football is the feigning of injury. See when somebody goes up for a tackle, for talking's sake, for a header, and they get a clatter in the arm, and the next minute they're putting holding their face. Fuck off! I would more than happily like to see a John Hartson, Ayo Berkovic moment. The opponent's going like, do you know what? See if you're going to dive a bit like that, I'm going to fucking give you something to roll a bit for. You know what I mean?
And for a penny and for a pound. Correct,
man. Aye. You're spot on, Woodsy. Utility man, shite in many positions, apart from a missionary.
The other teams we've got, this seems quite outdated, this information I'm working from, but you've got Feyenoord, Red Star Belgrade, Red Bull Salzburg, and Shakhtar Donetsk again.
Who was the first one? Sorry.
Feyenoord, Red Star Belgrade, Red Bull Salzburg, and Shakhtar Donetsk.
Well, if you're playing against Shakhtar, you're not going to be playing in Ukraine, are you? So it'll be fucking Poland or something you go to, but I would probably go for Feyenoord.
You have higher expectations this time round of Celtic competing in the Champions League, or does it all depend on the draw? Maybe next season we'll be more equipped to do it because of the.
Listen, I know guys in the comment section are quite regular with their opinions. I know certainly Frank Brennan is. I understand why you say it, Frank, but I don't agree with you that we should be aiming for third. I see that as losers mentality, and I get why you say it, right? But if you go into a competition where there's first place, second place, third place, and fourth place, if you're not aiming for first place, then you're a loser, right? You might not get first place, you might struggle to get second place, but you do not and cannot go into that. You cannot get any tournament, at least with the optimism of doing something positive. If your idea of getting into the Champions League is hoping and praying that you finish third, I think that's abysmal. An abysmal fucking attitude to have, because you're just being a loser right away. But then in saying that,
do you mean as a fan or as a professional player?
Both. But I will kind of counter argument myself, because the Europa League final is in Dublin this year, so I'd love to be in that. So on that note, I would love to finish third.
Right, well, for this year and this year alone, yeah, by the way, the prices, I saw on Twitter, okay, someone had booked months and months and months ago, they'd booked a hotel in Temple Bar for them and their mate for the night of the Europa final. And then once it got announced, the Temple Bar, the establishment, cancelled their booking and they hiked the prices up tenfold. Dublin might be a lovely place to go, but they're pricing tourists out. It's dog eat dog, man. It's unfortunate. But Paddy, would love to go all the way in the Europa final. It'd be fantastic. I honestly think that people have kind of readjusted their goals after what the Rotten Mob did. I think that's kind of, I wouldn't say make people jealous, but people have said, well, if they can do it, then why can't we? And that's a fair opinion to have. But I think that has kind of had an impact of people's hopes and expectations.
Well, I mean, there's only so much that black magic and witchcraft will get you, and I certainly believe that that's what they practiced in that season. I think they had an altar praying to Satan, selling their souls, selling the souls of their shoes to get their results. They just it was so much luck involved. And by the way, to be fair, they did take their chances well, but every team that they came up against, bar one, I think it might have been Slavia Prague, Ibrox, they just sat after them and let them play. But in saying that again, contradicting myself here, that shows you what a team for Scotland can do. You know what I mean? That's in the Europa League. I'm not even entertaining the thought about Europa League because we're in the Champions League. We're there to take part, right? Could we win it?
We're not taking over.
We might take over the group. Yes, Corvo, they did indeed, and I think I would probably say the vast majority of Celtic fans were fucking absolutely sick of Frankfurt's because I know me, I was eating hot dogs for fucking 2 weeks after that final. No, listen, you're in the Champions League, mate. You're there to escape the groups. If you go in with anything other than that kind of mantra, that mentality, you're a fucking loser. Sorry, that's just my opinion. I understand why people hold the opinion I go for third, but nah, not for me. Take it a step at a time.
So, I don't agree with that. That you're a loser if you're targeting third.
Well,
Not as.
Well, tell me why you think otherwise.
Well, considering our Champions League record, or just the record in Europe in general, at one time, at the turn of the century, was very respectable. Now it's a laughingstock. It really is. We're no good in Europe, and we need to turn that corner. If we got third, that would be a success based upon to compare and contrast with recent years. And no, it's not. I wouldn't want to celebrate it, but it's better than what we've achieved recently. And of course, that kind of guarantees European participation beyond Christmas, which I think we should always be aiming for. To get second in the group stage in the Champions League, that'd be amazing. But we've only done it, 3 times? Strachan did it twice, and Lennon did it once, or it's the other way around. I don't know. It's so difficult to get to the last 16. And back then, it was a little bit easier. Now, the gulf in finance is widening and widening. It's so difficult.
But was it so much difficult back in the day? I mean, Gordon Strachan had a team of Paul Telfer, players of that ilk, Lee Naylor, right? AC Milan had fucking Kaka. They had Kaladze. They had fucking. You could rattle off the list of names. That golf was still there in quality. The only thing that's changed now is that there's more money being spent on players. That's the only fucking golf in quality. Gordon Strachan went into that group stage, well, in the 2 seasons, with a mentality of what's the point in being here if we're not going to try and compete? And us competing is trying to get out of this groups because that is our first priority. That's your first target. I honestly just don't understand how. Listen, see if we ended up in third, right? I wouldn't be gutted, right? But my whole point is that people are actually saying, "Let's go for third." We've not even kicked a ball in the Champions League yet, and people are wanting us out of the Champions League. That just does not make sense to me. Like, what's the fucking point? What's the point in even being there then? To get fucking 50, 30 million or whatever, and then just no bother us. We'd as well not turn that way.
Say we get a group of like Real Madrid in pot 1, pot 2, let's say Ajax, I don't know, or Benfica put in pot 2, pot 3 Sociedad. Well, no, that's 2 Spanish teams, but I don't know, AC Milan, and then Celtic. If we got a third out of like that kind of caliber of opposition, I get what you're saying. That technically it's failure. But compared to what we've been doing recently, that's us pulling up some trees. And as somebody said, if we make Parkhead a fortress, that's the first step. We need to get that atmosphere back, or people are roaring constantly for 90 minutes. You're not sitting down. We need to make ourselves difficult to beat. Another thing is Brendan Rodgers says that he's going to be pragmatic in Europe. And I believe that. He's beaten Man City 5-2 when he was the Leicester manager. And that's not by being gung-ho. You can't really do that with Ange tactics with the players that we've got. Ange tactics, there wasn't really a massive flaw with that, but you need players of a certain calibre to carry out his wishes to the letter of the law. With Brendan Rodgers being a wee bit more pragmatic, like what he did with Leicester, turning over Man City 5-2, which is astounding. Maybe there's a bit of hope. We need to make Parkhead a fortress. I totally agree with that comment.
The way I see it, Gav, right, is we know our limitations, right, and we are limited so much by the fact that we play in Scotland. We play in a shit league, in a shit country, footballing wise. We don't get challenged enough, right? We're a blue, excuse me for using the colour blue, but we're a blue whale and a goldfish bowl, right? We need away for this this country if we really want to be one of the top teams in the world on the park. After the park, I think we're well up there, certainly top 10. But you look at some of the players that Strachan had, again, Paul Telfer, very, very limited player, but he had that, he had Hart, he had Arthur Boric, cost us fucking, $500,000, ended up a top player. Fraser Forster, a nobody at Newcastle, a young player who wasn't even deemed good enough for Newcastle, come up here. Players like that, it's not all the time about how much money you spend, it's about spending your money right and getting in the right player. We could have a team full of freebies. We could still qualify at the Champions League. It's about how we go into that process, get into that competition, our approach. Again, if the players were to approach the Champions League with the mentality of, right, our aim here is third, I would be fucking raging, mate. If we gave it a good go and we tried to beat whoever was in front of us and we ended up third, right, okay, you take it because yes, you're getting European football after Christmas. You're still guaranteed a couple of good games. Businesses round about the area are guaranteed an income. That's fine. But if you're a Celtic supporter, I'm sorry. If anybody disagrees with me, I respect it, but I don't agree with it. If you go into the Champions League and your main aim is not getting out of that group stage, it's a waste of time. A waste of time.
Okay, what if the main aim is to get out of the group, but you wouldn't see third as a failure? I think that's more of an accurate thing. You want to qualify from the group. Okay, you're taking on the best teams in the world. You're not going in there to play for draws. You're going in to win. Because even the best teams can get turned over. Real Madrid have had some shocking results at home over the past few years in Europe, even though they somehow managed to qualify. But aiming to get the group, that's what you're doing. But at the same time, finishing third, knowing in the back of your head, that is not failure.
Depending on performances at the time. If we've came and we've gave it our all and we've ended up third, you'll take it. You'll take it because at least you've tried. But again, if you don't go in and give it 100%, there, Ryan Taylor, third place is third place is a last resort, nothing else. And it's a safety net. It really is a safety net because if we wanted to have our aim as being in the Europa League, then do you know what? We should just say, no thanks, no like a Champions League place, we'll just go into the Europa League. But why did we celebrate automatic entry into the Champions League? Because we're in the Champions League, because it is the most prestigious competition in club football in the world. And see if you don't want to do as good as you can in that competition, again, I'm sorry, there's no point being there because you're selling yourself short as a club. Anybody can go into the group and get out, right? It might be maybe one of these seasons where you end up second, maybe one of these seasons where you end up first. But if any one of the 4 teams can get through, some of the worst teams that have got through ahead of some of the better teams. I mean, why can it not be Celtic? Why can Celtic not get into the next stages? Because we're in Scotland. Because we've got no money.
Probably the financial.
In terms of our club, we've got no money. And look at Sefco. They got to the Europa League final ahead of guys, teams like Dortmund. You know what I mean? They were the big dogs. Never done anything. Bellingham just moved for 105 million, 110 million. He was shite.
Somebody made a point that the sign of a good team is to be more than the sum of your parts, and I fully agree with that. I think that we've been falling short of that.
Again, I see people. I'm not picking on your comment here, Brown Warrior, although I've put it up, but it's just indicative of what I see. People keep mentioning the past. Yes, we've no qualified, we've no done this, we've no done that. But see, if you keep looking into the past, then you have no future, right? The Champions League is in our future. We are going to be playing in the Champions League. We are there on merit because we have won our league. It's the way it should be. You win your league, you go to the Champions League. No, this fucking 3rd, 4th or 5th finish push or winning the second trophy and you get to the Champions League. Fuck off, give me peace. You've won your league, you should be in. Right, we've won our league by the most points. We've won our league on merit. We are in the Champions League on merit. Again, if you look at your failures, you're looking that way. Champions League's over there. There's 2 roads. If you want to walk down failure road, go for 3rd. You might not even get 3rd. And if you want to go down that road and go and fucking have a right good crack at it, do it. But put every single bit of heart and soul into that. Make sure that the Celtic Park is a fortress. Make sure that it's not just the crowd that's fucking putting the fear of God into players, that it's the players as well. And that's why we need to be dominant. We need to be streetwise. We need to be savvy. Rodgers needs to step up and fucking walk the walk, not just talk the talk and saying that he's going to be more pragmatic. He's going to do this, going to do that. We need to see it. We need to see it for the players. And I'm more confident this season because the players that we had this season going by are now getting into the Champions League with Champions League experience where they never had it before. You know what I mean? Guys like Kyogo were fluffing chances. They weren't clinical enough. He'll be getting in there saying, right, I want to do it this year. Really, really want to do it. I want to make an improvement on what I did last year. Because what I did last year was nothing. Never scored. Now I want to score. I want to score winners. It's no hard. Correct.
Paddy, I've been talking for over 2 hours now, and I need to empty my bladder. Do you want to wrap it up for this evening?
Listen, it's been over 2 hours. Gav, one of the nights where we could just rabble on, and it's been great. Everybody that's stuck with us for all the time, all the comments, love that. Thank you so much for all the input. It's been a great night. Enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it indeed. It's been very, very good. Hopefully, so obviously tomorrow Yokohama Marinos, Saturday Gamba Osaka will be on Celtic TV. So tune into that. I'll try and watch it. I can't really guarantee I'll be able to see it. I'm working anyway. But we'll be back on Tuesday.
You work at home?
I do, man. But get a new job, man, and like, you know, I need to look as if I'm trying, you know. So we'll be back next Tuesday. Hopefully there'll be some movement with the transfers for Celtic, you know, something positive to talk about, something concrete to talk about as well. So I guess that's what we're hoping for. But to all the viewers, thank you very, very much. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all enjoying your summer. Enjoy your pish, Gav. Thank you, mate. Thank you. I've near enough done. This is rather large as well. I've just got small hands. Yes, 32 ounces of water. So I'm away. But there's an image. There's an image. Right, Paddy, over and out.
Pleasure.